Howdy, excuse me, howdy, folks. Popajovic here. I've been looking through my oeuvre of the Battlezone 2 videos, and I've realized I've gotten so much into the game, but not the game behind the game. And what I mean is the shell experience, the interface. And being a former modder for the Battlezone 2 game, particularly the shell, I'm pretty much an expert. So I'm going to let you in on how this game's interface works, the little nooks and crannies of its options. First, I'd like to make a shout out to Anthony Hadley, who made some, I would say, a little bit deconstructive comments on my videos, but he gave me a tip, and a tip that I think is well worth following. He told me to put a sock on my microphone, and that way, whenever I go Jabba Pop or feline friskiness, you won't hear weird noises. It'll sound normal. The only problem, I guess, is I don't have any clean socks, so it's the mic is kind of beneath my nose. I have to be careful when I breathe. I'm trying to breathe out of my mouth. I don't mind as much because the mouth isn't as sensitive as the sniffer, so I don't really smell or taste the stinkiness. But let's get going. First thing, it's the way this is before the early days of multi-user constructs. So you're given multiple user accounts within the game. They had their own system set up. If you say you have friends or family members who are playing the Battlezone 2 game, and you don't want to interrupt their progress in the story, you can do your own, pilot name or options too. I don't know how the options are integrated or if they're different for each user. I've only been just me and empty. I've never gone to the empty ones. It's kind of depressing if you think about it. All those empty pilots never incarnated into this life. So you can see we're running the latest public beta. I tell you guys, catch up on your patches. Catch up and patch up. So let's enter. We can quit, but we don't want to do that. You don't want to end too soon. Or retire. I like the metaphor. Instead of delete, it's retire. A little cute feature. So you can see, it's kind of like a taskbar on top always. If you want to watch the movies, check out the movies. I don't want to check out the movie. That was the intro movie. I don't know if it would record in Fraps anyway. I just clicked that for the heck of it. Let's check credits. No, I don't. That's a movie too. It's a movie form. It's not a screen scroller. But my movie, one movie, no movies. Okay, I guess it's the intro movie. I think it is possible to look at the other movies in the game. If through the single player campaign there's multiple movies. I don't want to click that button now. If I click the button, it's going to start. I'll click it. There's the movie. And you can see this is the single player campaign screen. If you're playing the single player, you're going to get used to this quickly. If you want to go play back your previous missions, click the archive button. Full brief. There's a lot of lore in this game. It really rewards people who want to find out more about the game. Like I said, they kind of retconned the story from the first game, but they weren't shy about sharing the story with you. So, friends and foes of fanfics galore. Have fun and read up on Battlezone 2. Make your own story one of these days. Little cute tidbits here about Pluto, if you didn't know about the scientific facts. I like how they say NA, not applicable, instead of like none or zero, because maybe there are, I don't know. Tech info, this is your ship. They show you each mission you go through, you're going to unlock some new units.
Major Manson.
Yeah,
Lieutenant Cook.
They
Major Manson.
can't shut them up.
This is General.
Anyway, there's little details in the game. I like games that give you details, but the details aren't like, nowadays you're forced on linear story missions, but here you're given the option to take that extra detail of the story or just throw it out the window. You don't have to if you don't want to, and I like that. I like games that do that don't force you to just sit down and wait for the first 30 minutes of the game because they want to tell a story. No, if you want to play the game, you can play the game. If you want to watch the story, you can watch the story. And this is the old generation. This type of game is dying quickly, and I hate that. I think we need to see more games created in this vein of like user-defined experience instead of developer-defined experience. I don't like that. Options. This is we're going to meet the nitty-gritty of this. I'm a little bit we're a little bit rusty behind the ear. It's probably because I've cleaned behind my ears, but I did not dry, so rust has formed. So there's a lot in here that I'm a little bit not privy to, but I'll try and tease it out with you as we go along. Mission difficulty, self-explanatory, automatic leveling. You're going to turn this off because if you don't, you won't be able to execute the advanced scout moves and what have you. Because automatic leveling will put you always at a 0 degree, always at a horizontal angle, and you won't be able to do certain things if that happens. Absolute pitch, I would turn that off too. I don't know, maybe that's got to do with something similar. I just turn it off. Force feedback, come on, you want something to upset you in the game? I don't think so. Playing this with one of those mouses that shock you? Huh. Network connection, that shouldn't even be a question anymore. Who uses modems? Taunts, you can turn that off if you think they're too annoying. And I think it's cute. It's cute at first to get a pass of what, the coder thought was funny to include as jokes. But you're going to get sick of them mighty quick, and they might obscure your chat messages. So you might want to disable that. I keep them on just for flavor, though. I always, like I said, it's about choice. It's about if you want those details, fine. If you don't, you can turn them off. Turret compass, it's, if you're inside of a turreted vehicle, it may be difficult to tell where your front orientation is when you start aiming around. So you could turn this on. It's not very helpful because it's not as developed as it should have been. It was only introduced, I think, in like the 1.3 patch or 1.2, and they never really developed it further beyond that, which is a shame. I mean, if you're ever in a turreted vehicle, you're going to see why you would need a turret compass. Third-person laser sight is cute. Keep it on, just for the heck of it. You're not going to be in third person ever, though. You might want to turn it off if you're making screenshots, because the little line interrupting the screen might be annoying. Hovercraft view. Default. Pilot view default. Track view. Okay, I think this is like third person. Like, what's your default orientation or something? No, it's default for when you enter. Why would you want to use anything except cockpit or default? I think the default is cockpit. 3D cockpit always off. This was introduced in the 1.2 patch. The default setting for it to be off, because it really gets in the way of your screen. If you have that, it looks cute. It's a detail that looks cute, but once you start playing, you're going to see why it shouldn't be there, because it just obscures your view willy-nilly, out of sight, out of mind. You don't know what you're doing anymore. Building construction preview. This is new. They added this in the 1.2 patch. It gives you a little wireframe kind of thing. It's kind of I guess default. Play with it. I've never played with it. I think it's a little bit excessive to have that much option. Target lead indicator on, of course. Weapon multi-select on. I think this must be single player options, because when you're in a multiplayer server, you get an option to turn these on or off too. The host gets the option, not the client. Some of the hardcore players don't like playing with these on because they give you kind of an advantage, which does not rely on skill. I think it still does rely on skill. It just changes what kind of skills you're going to be using. Control smoothing, always off. Whenever you see the word smooth, it's a smooth move to turn it off, because smoothing, it just really, it does what it wants to your motions. Graphics, they really, props to GSH. Nathan Mates for really expanding this menu here. Options galore. Always turn local fog off, because it's another thing that just obscures your vision. Like it says here, this is very constructive. Don't turn shadows on high, because you're not going to want to. Thanks for giving me the option but telling me not to use it. Props to the props. It's mostly important in single player. Turn it on. You see a lot of the options with involving the details you're going to want to have on for single player, because it's about the immersive experience. I don't know if they're separate for single player and multiplayer. I would just keep them as they were, and then if they're not, turn it back on. And if they seem to be on in multiplayer, then turn them back off. EMBM bump maps. This was new. Back in the day when the bump maps were used, it was only for Matrox cards. But here, they managed to, through the magic of technology, integrate it into every video card. So here you can see those bump maps in full glory as they were meant to be seen. Just keep that option on. Anti-stropic filtering. These are just technical terms for things. Keep it increase it as high as you can until the frame starts dipping, then lower it back down. Sky detail high. Light sources all. Always terrain loading. That's when you're at a distance, things will start changing. To conserve like geometry rendering, turn it off, because you don't want to have terrain constantly blip-blopping in the distance. That's from like old tech, when video cards were like Voodoo 2 and they couldn't run advanced calculations. Chrome far objects on. You want to figure out a way to just pretty much amp those details, because if you're on a modern card, you're going to be getting like 1,000 frames per second in this game. which is kind of funny because when the game was first released, you could not do that. You can see here 1280, 720. I have to do that to record in Fraps and import to Lightworks. Now this is the complicated stuff. I don't understand what any of this is. I don't mess with this. This is like really tech nerd stuff. In-game resolution. Triple buffer on, of course. Specular heights on. VSync, always turn it off. You want it fast. That's what's important. Speed. Sound. Talkative units. I've never turned that on. It could be funny, though. Maybe they'll be doing a little pitter-patter chatter. You know, what things I saw on my way to the relay bunker. 3D sound. The sound is not the strong point in this game. I think if you've seen my review, right. I like how they ripped the tracks for the patch though. If they're in OGG format, so you don't need the CD and the drive to hear the music. The music is okay. It's definitely worth a listen to. You know, when you're playing initially, but once you start getting into like online play, you want to turn it off and just put on your own music playing in the background. Make sure to disable. There's an option about like communication device silencing. Just check your sound recorder options because the game treats voice over IP. This game includes a voice over IP and it treats it through the Windows device manager or something. And so when you start chatting, it'll lower any background audio to like 50%. So if you have like a Winamp or something playing in the background, it'll cut your sound down, and that's not good. But like here, I optimized this so I can have my music playing, so I reduce music to 0, of course. Effects, you know, I don't need to hear the blip bloppies, but they're still useful. Voice at 100, because you always want to know what your units are doing. User engine volume, I don't know what that is. I heard it's like the hum of your engine, like your tank engine. It doesn't seem to make a difference when I increase or decrease it, so I mean, let's keep it at 70. It's a good number. It's a good, strong, but not overpowering number. Shell effects, keep them, you know, basically the noises when you're rolling your hand over the, it's useful. It's never too invasive. And being a shell man myself, I get kind of fond remembrances when I hear them, so I keep them on. 3D sound level, I thought I had 3D sound off. MP voice chat sound level, you might want to amp this up if you're having trouble hearing people on the voice over IP in the game. I just keep these at 8, no biggie. You know, 3D sound is not a thing in this game. This is record my voice during MP other's voice. What does that mean? MP voice capture device. Okay, I guess this is if you're having trouble with your sound, you can just turn it off. If you don't want to hear other people, you can turn it off. This is like a global setting. If you're having trouble, you can change your threshold. You have people who have not push to talk, who have push to talk off, and it just records it automatically the moment you start speaking, or it detects audio. And if this threshold is too high, it's going to record everything, including your farts underneath your butt. So people are going to hear what's going on between your seat and your butt, and that's not good. So I always recommend lower it. I mean, to something more bearable, just to the point where it detects your voice and not much else. Options galore, baby. Input, you're going to want to tweak these. I don't know what this stuff is. Default, just skip that screen. Screw around. Whatever is most conducive to your style of play. It's pretty straightforward. Here's a pro tip, though. You're going to want to bind a previous weapon key. The good old Griffin Strat players taught me this one, because if you don't have the previous weapon key, you're going to keep scrolling forward, but never be able to scroll backwards, so you're going to have to flip through your entire list just to switch between, like, your chain gun and your stab, and that's not good. There's some other stuff going on here, you know. There's really no reason to mess with any of these. These are the straightforward, like, interface stuff that's bound in the HUD. Push to talk. V is the key. That's for me and what I say. V is the key. There's actually a zoom in feature. I don't know how useful that is. Camera settings. Like I said, options galore. Pack and punches. File. If you have a load a save game, save a save game. The instant action window was expanded in the patches. You have all your instant actions, baby. Look at it. Look how it goes. Some of these instant actions are straight out of the MPI. I don't think this one too. Some of these instant actions are not in the MPI, which I think is a shame, because I would love to see more MPI maps in the future, and more more maps. Period. This Strat's got thousands of maps. Where's our MPI in single player mode? But extra options. I don't know how, a lot of these are from the MPI, so I don't know how they affect. I think they parsed it so that you don't get MPI variants in the instant action, player respawn, off round. And its instant action is super easy. Don't joke, nobody. And multiplayer. Here we go to the multiplayer screen. This is where the game is at the moment. This is where everyone is hanging out. It's got a chat. I don't like how the chat window is integrated though. You click the chat button and suddenly it's an IRC. It joins an IRC channel, but suddenly you can't see the server information anymore. The only way to see the server information is to click the server information key. Okay, I guess it can, but it doesn't. Okay, I guess I'm just making stuff up. I lost it there. You can still switch between. And sort it. You can sort what type of game you want to play. This just click all games. Not going to be many games. Internet through Arachnet superseded the GameSpy because GameSpy was dropped. Let's get into the hosting screen. I'll make this hosting screen. Please don't be mean. You select your map on the left, your vehicles that your players, as a host, the vehicles that you want your players to be able to choose from. On the right, game options. It's very limited game options because these are just server settings. They're not about the actual game. That's the map options, where all the options you're going to want to tweak are. Time limits, kill limits, respawn. Since I've done MPI so far, let's check in the MPI options. It changes depending on game type. This is 3 screens. Oh boy. Main stuff you're going to want to tweak if you're making a server. Set the AIP to insane. Starting recycler. Play around with it until you find one you like. Personally, I think the most open one is Green Heart, variant with thugs, because it's always fun to have you get to a point in the game you want your players to play too, so they can get their own recycler. Don't give yourself too much. You gotta learn to handicap yourself, because the game is easy enough as it is. So just click none or some scavs just to get the game going quickly. Scrap cheat, boost that up for the AI because you want this game to be tough. Human scrap cheat, low. Turret, give the AI always give the AI advantage, the player the disadvantage. Weapon linking on or off, friendly fire always off because you don't want griefers coming in and killing you. Sniper, it's an AIP game. You don't really need it. You can try to keep it on just for the heck of it, but always make sure to reduce the unit limit to 0 so you can have an infinite amount of units. Okay. And starting units when you're in an MPI, I like to pick Saber just so you can start and attack the turrets. Otherwise, you're gonna have to wait or risk dying. These crazy people want pornos. Okay, but that's enough. I think that's enough. We got you covered. We got you covered with all the different options. I hope you enjoyed this video, and like, comment, and subscribe, and come on down to Jabba's Corner.